On the Build Show today, we're talking framing. I've got a detail for you on how to really jump the performance of your house, but do it on a tight budget. Today's Build Show, all about modified Monopoly framing. Let's get going. All right, so we've talked about Monopoly framing in the past, and this is actually a concept I stole from Joe Stiebrick, and I did my very first house in this style, which actually I called Perfect Wall. That's what Joe calls it. I did it several years ago. It was an amazing house. It actually was Fine Home Building's House of the Year in like 2017. But that house, very modern, no overhangs. We were building on a tight budget. My house, I wanted to use the same concept, but I wanted to do it in a more traditional look. So if you look at my house during framing, if you saw any of those videos, my zip system sheathing actually touched my zip system roofing, meaning all of my traditionally hand-cut rafters, when they hit the wall, we cut them. And so no rafter tails were sticking out. And then later, I added tails on top of the roof with some exterior insulation. Now that's a great way to go. It's absolutely bomber when it comes to an air sealing, to continuous exterior insulation. It's really the best way to go, but it's frankly pretty expensive to do that. I spent a lot of time on the framer's labor, not a ton of money on materials, but mainly labor. So this house, traditionally framed, traditional roof trusses, we were going to block out the areas in between the rafters as they poked out. In this back of the house, we did that. And I've done that a lot over the years to start making a conditioned attic, meaning the attic space is part of the air-conditioned space of the house. So we're slab on grade here. There's no basement. That means that my attic's going to have a lot of ductwork to heat and cool the house. So we would spray, and I've done this a lot over the years, open cell or even better closed cell foam at the ceiling line, and then we would use those bird blocks that are solid blocked there as a backer for the spray foam. However, it's not great when it comes to air sealing. Spray foam works as an air sealant, but it's not really its main job. Its main job is insulation, and oh, by the way, you get some air tightness benefits. But I've seen lots of spray foam pull away from the framing and not be perfectly airtight. So a way to do that bird blocking better would be to come in and use a caulking there. Either use Zip System Liquid Flash or maybe some Big Stretch caulk or Lexel to caulk that first and then spray foam it so we'd be more airtight. However, if you look at that detail, there's miles of cracks along there that would need to be caulked and then spray foamed. On the other hand, my buddy Scott True, when I visited him, a builder out in Bastrop, took the Monopoly framing concept and did something that I loved, and that's what we did here. Okay, so now what I want to show you is we use zip system sheathing on the soffit of this small porch, and we used it on all the overhangs of the house. Genius idea by Scott, so that now I can use still traditional trusses, really traditional framing, and not have to do anything differently. But now I don't have to rely on the spray foam for air tightness. I can either use liquid flash or tape for air tightness. In the face of the zip sheathing is my air barrier on the outside of the house, and this works great as an air barrier. So if we come to the inside now, you're going to notice where I have these trusses, we ran the zip system sheathing up to hit the bottom of the truss, and these are raised heel trusses or energy trusses. And let me come up on the ladder, and I'm going to use my GoPro to kind of show you what I'm looking at here. Okay, so what you're seeing here, this is the top of the sheathing, and then you can see this comes up to the trusses right here. This is a raised heel or an energy heel truss. And then if I put this light up in here, this right here is the backside of that zip system sheathing. This down here is my sub fascia, and that sub fascia has a tape joint between here and the sub fascia to tighten that up. And then this roof sheathing here, this is zip system roof sheathing. This is taped to the sub fascia right here as well. So now we're nice and airtight. And if I take this light away, you can see I don't have any light coming through that space whatsoever. We're nice and tight in there. So now my spray foam contractor, when he comes, is going to fill this cavity with spray foam. Now we probably could also use, let's say, dense packed cellulose in there and maybe transition to rock wool in these cavities. This roof's actually a pretty straightforward roof. I've seen my buddy Travis Brungart do that. That certainly could be an option. Or in this house where budget really is an issue and we have a couple of tricky framing details with a dormer that would make traditional bats at this roof line harder, we're gonna go with open cell spray foam. So we're gonna reuse 10 inches of open cell spray foam at the roof line. Now this whole attic is conditioned. We're dealing with air tightness with the zip system sheathing on the outside, and we didn't have to do anything different. I love this idea. Super thankful for Scott for showing me this out on the job site. And if you look at the gable walls, you're gonna notice that the zip system sheathing on this gable here and the two gables upstairs went up, and then we put the barge rafters on after the fact. In other words, the overhang framing went on after the sheathing. So with just a little bit of variance on the framer's part, we're able to get a very airtight shell. Now I don't have windows in yet, we can't do a blower door test, but once we get our windows on, we can do a blower door test at this point before spray foam comes, and I don't need to rely on that spray foam for air tightness. Now back here where those rafters poke through, those are traditional hand cut rafters. I've got a porch on the back of the house, so we did bird block that off. I need to decide what are we gonna do. We're gonna get there with a ladder and caulk those. That's probably what we'll do, so that we have a double seal with both spray foam and caulking. But if I would have had the entire house like that, that could have been 2 or 3 days of a guy with a caulking gun messing with all those details. And by doing it this way, so much easier. I'm relying on the zip for air tightness. Guys, I'll have a link in the description for all my other videos where I talked about Monopoly framing, or what I used to call perfect wall framing, which is Joe Stiebert coined name. I also call that the 500-year house. That's what Joe calls it. So this is a great detail, and I think you really should check this out or consider this for your houses as well. If you're not currently a subscriber, guys, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on TikTok or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.